All right, so China is about to do something huge in the electric vehicle world. We're talking about something no other country has ever done before, the world's first mandatory efficiency standard for EVs. And trust me, it's going to reshape the entire industry. So let's just jump right into the headline because this is a really big deal. You're going to want to mark your calendars for January 1st, 2026, because on that day, a new rule kicks in across China that's going to affect every single new electric car sold in the world's biggest auto market. Okay, so to really get why this is such a game changer, we need to look at what's actually changing. This is way more than just a little tweak to an old policy. So before, China had what you could call a recommended framework. Think of it as a strong suggestion, a guideline for automakers. But now, that's all changing. It's shifting to a mandatory national standard, which means it's no longer just advice. It's a legal requirement with direct legal force. These rules are finally getting some real teeth. So how are regulators actually going to measure this efficiency? It might sound complicated, but it's really not. Let's break down the basic idea they're using. It all comes down to this one metric: kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Now, the easiest way to wrap your head around this is to think of it as the electric version of miles per gallon. It's just a super straightforward way to measure how much energy a car uses to go a set distance. And just like with gas, the lower that number is, the more efficient the car is. And this is the number you need to remember. The new rule sets these hard limits based on how much a car weighs. So for a pretty typical 2-ton EV, and a lot of them are around that size, it cannot use more than 15.1 kilowatt hours of electricity to travel 100 kilometers. That is the new line in the sand. Period. And what does this actually mean for you, the driver? Well, it's simple. You get more range out of the same battery. I mean, who doesn't want that? By forcing cars to be thriftier with their energy, the estimates say we're looking at an average bump of about 7% in driving range. Simply put, more miles for your charge. But, a rule is only as good as its enforcement, right? So how are they going to make sure automakers actually do this? Well, it's not just about fines. It's actually really clever. It's tied directly to some pretty powerful financial incentives. Yeah, check this out. It's a classic carrot and stick situation. For the automakers that play by the new rules, their cars get to qualify for really valuable purchase tax exemption. That's a huge win for their customers. But for the ones that don't comply, whoops, they lose that tax break. And even worse, their less efficient models could get pulled from production entirely. The stakes are super high. And they are not messing around with the timing. This timeline shows just how fast this is all happening. By the end of 2025, all the existing models get reviewed. Then, bam, January 1st, 2026, it's the law of the land. And for the next couple of years, if you want those tax breaks, you gotta comply. The deadline for the entire industry is set in stone. So, what does this all mean for the companies actually building these cars? Well, let's just say the race for efficiency is officially on. For the big players like BYD and Geely, a lot of their newer models are already good to go. They probably saw this coming. But this new rule isn't just about their shiny new cars. It's looking at their entire lineup. And that's where the pressure really builds, especially on the heavier vehicles and some of the older, less efficient designs. Those are the ones that are now squarely under the microscope. And just to be clear, this is not a suggestion. The official word from the regulators is direct. It says automakers will be required to make these technical upgrades. It really boils down to a simple choice: adapt and get efficient, or get left in the dust. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Why should a rule change in China matter so much to the rest of the world? Well, it's a huge deal. Look, by creating the world's first ever mandatory EV efficiency standard, China isn't just regulating its own massive market. It's throwing down the gauntlet and setting a brand new global benchmark. This forces us to ask some big questions, right? Will this force Western automakers to completely redesign their heavier EVs just to compete in China? One thing is absolutely certain. A new standard has been set, leaving the rest of the world with one big question: who will be next to follow?